Crooks Orchard for decades, and generations and generations of families came here. And now, 13 years ago, Horse Listeners Orchard bought the farm, and it continues to be a working orchard, growing everything from apples to peaches, nectarines, plums, and Asian pears, as far as orchard varieties go. And then we move into things like vegetables. We have blueberries for pick your own. So we do pick your own. We do sales in our farm store. We do wholesale accounts all across New England at major universities like Brown and Roger Williams and MIT. And then we have huge family events that come out and do pick your own and farm stores, and hot apple cider and donuts. So there's something for everybody. Actual spot on the apple started off as a flower, and that flower grew and grew and grew, and the entire job of this apple is to protect the seeds inside. So the healthier the apple, the more likely that it protects the seeds, which allows this variety of apple to continue growing into the future. So this tree right here, I don't know when it was planted exactly, but from the time it was planted as a very baby apple tree, it took 5 years. So a 5-year-old apple tree starts to produce an apple. And that's a long time. You'd have to be in kindergarten before you could be an apple tree producing apples that we can eat. But every single apple that you see on this tree started out sometime around April in the spring as just a tiny apple flower blossom. And most of them will have anywhere between 6 flowers in a cluster, and only one of those flowers, which is called the king bloom, it's the biggest bloom in the cluster, will actually turn into an apple. Here on the farm we grow over 28 varieties of apples, which doesn't even scratch the surface of the varieties that are out there in the world. And every apple has a different flavor component. So some apples are soft inside, some are really crunchy, some are incredibly juicy, some are less so, some are sweet, some are semi-sweet, some are tart, and there's actually a rating scale for all of those things for apples. Most apples are a hybrid. They're a combination of 2 or more different kinds of apples. So say a gala apple is a combination of 2 or 3 other apples. A stellar apple, one of its parents is a red delicious. So you may have never heard of stellar, but you've probably heard of red delicious. So those components that you love maybe about red delicious, some of those components live in the stellar apple. So it really depends on what apples were put together to create that actual that type to give you your sweetness, your tartness, your juiciness. Some people like the really soft apples or the really crispy apples, and so it's really about parentage. Part of raising apple trees into healthy apple trees is making sure that they don't get sick, because apple trees, just like kids and people, can get a variety of different diseases that would result in them not creating any apples at all. And so we actually have to give them different kinds of spray to eliminate those diseases. So we don't ever actually spray the fruit itself. We spray the canopy, which are the leaves on the apples, because healthy leaves make healthy trees, and healthy trees make apples. So this is a common, actually Red Delicious is one of the common apples I think that kids see when they get apples in school. And speaking of apples in schools, we actually sell a lot of our apples to schools, everything from elementary schools in Mansfield, Connecticut, to colleges and universities across New England, like I mentioned before. We also have sold our peaches and our fresh apple cider to local elementary schools in the area. So if that's something that, if you're out there listening and you work at an elementary school, you're part of deciding what kind of food our kids are eating and where that food is coming from, we're always open to having a conversation about how we can connect our kids with locally grown Connecticut produce. Well, for one, the quality of the fruit and vegetables when it's locally grown in season is unmatched. If our food is coming from South America or New Zealand in many cases, you're not going to get the best tasting, and who knows how long it took for them to get that produce here. But it also keeps farmers in business. It keeps our land healthy. If we're good stewards of the land and we're growing responsibly on our land is going to be healthy. So our land will be healthy, our kids are healthy eating local produce, you know where it comes from, how it was treated. Every vegetable here on this farm, I started from seed as a baby, and I feel like it's easy to track, it's easy to trace, it's easy to ask questions, and it's something that everybody can do too if they want to grow at their own house. But you know what went into it, how it got to where it is now, and where you can find more. If you want more apples, all you have to do is come here and pick it right off the tree. You can't do that if they're coming from New Zealand. So locally grown keeps us all fed, keeps us all working, and keeps us a strong community together. My name is Crystal Morawitz. My apple here is, of course, Listener's Orchard Grow. And apples for kids at local schools are important because they're a healthy component of a well-balanced diet, and they're delicious. This is how I crunch. How do you crunch?